All right, so hello and welcome to a little Carlito, oh sorry, it's the other way, Carlito test bench review with all those components that you see there. Ah, I pointed it the right way. Anyways, the today we are, or I am, who's this we? Shut up. Oh, that's that's the other one, I guess. So today I am going to be testing a new setup that I've done with these components here in the right hand side. So I'm using HGLRC um, stack, so the flight controller and the ESC. And then for motors, I'm using the Flywoo 1404, I believe, yes. 1404 3750 kV. 4-inch props these motors are taking, and for the power, I'm going to be using a Sony 3000 milliamp 3S configuration. So it'll be this battery here, which I already added and pre-soldered and everything, all the good stuff that you need to do for the battery to be charged and to fly with, where is it? This quad. This will be the quad that you're gonna see fly. And the combined weight for these two things is just under 250 grams. It's you could argue that it's yeah, you wouldn't be able to add any more things here, but you can take things away, because here I have a little GPS here on top that I'm actually not using in flight, and I have another wireless configurator. So if you remove these two things, you can probably add a very small lightweight camera and a VTX and fly this if you so desire, and still probably be at 250 grams. Or also underneath, I have a little board that makes it so that I can fly in position hold here in my living room, and I'll talk you guys through all the setup that I have as I do this test. And the purpose of the test is to see how long I can get one of these to fly in 3S. So something under 250 grams. How long will it fly for? And that's why I'm not using 4S, because otherwise I will go overweight with this 4-inch quad. And I can tell you that there's a lot of power that this 3S uses. And if you've seen my previous video that I've done not too long ago, you see me doing the exact same test, but with a 2S. The problem is that the ESCs are rated for 3S above, so I could never deplete all my battery, because obviously I'm already severely under voltage even when the 2S battery is charged, and yeah, when it gets like 6 volts of full power, the poor ESC that's rated for 3S doesn't take it, and the drone just goes down. But so without any further ado, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna connect this up, and I have a timer as well. So I have a little camera set up right here on my floor. It's my chair with my remote. Uh, Let me put the battery the right way in. And what I'm doing, I'm just tying the battery to the base of the drone, powering it up. There you go, and the floor right there. You can probably see a little bit of it. Yeah. And I'm going to bring up my timer here just so I can start it. And Armand, put it about the payload and start the timer. So hopefully all of that went without a hit. And you can see that it's just hovering on top of the payload. And that's because of the sensors that it has underneath that's able to maintain its position even when it's flying. So the battery on launch, let me just launch my program here. Is let me put the sound on my phone, which is how I can see the battery without actually having a camera there. So the battery on load at the moment is 11.8 volts. And the battery was fully charged, so 12.6.
Battery voltage is 11.7 volts.
Oh,
altitude 0.7 meters.
Just going to 11.7 volts. But remember, this is on load. I'm just going to go here. There you go. Move it on top of the pillows,
11.7 volts.
just in case something happens.
Altitude 0.7 meters.
And we're going to be hearing this buzzing sound for quite a while, so brace yourselves. So, while that's flying by itself, I'm just going to put the sound
battery voltage is 11.7 volts.
of my phone. There. Put my phone volume a little bit lower so you can actually hear what I'm saying. And I'm going to be showing you what type of components this has. And I've had this before. I don't know if you can see it on the screen, but ever so slowly it will start yawing a little bit, and within like minutes it will do a complete complete turnaround. But I don't like that very much, so I'm just gonna yaw it so that the rear is towards me. So then if something happens, at least I'll be able to control the drone correctly. And it always yaws left as well. Anyway, let's let it do its thing, and we're gonna go. And oh, by the way, as you can see, the Tango, the controller, is here on the bench, and it's flying all by itself. Yeah, it's crazy, huh? What a world we live in. Anyways, let me show you what's the kit that I have going on. I just need to change. And by the way, this is all done in one straight segment, so there's no no cuts or anything in between. So I'm gonna change the screen right now, but you should still be able to see the exact same image. Just yawing it to the right. A little more. Yeah, okay, it's good there. All right. So I'm gonna keep my hand here and change to this view. There we go. And we are already at 3 minutes 47, so 4 minutes very soon. The battery is decreased to 11.6 now. So at the beginning, you always like when you have a full battery, then put that battery on the load. It's always going to decrease a lot, but then it's going to go very, very slowly. And you can see the stack that I'm using here. So HG LRC Zeus F735, which was sent to me by actually by Drone Junkie, but HG LRC sent some flight controllers and or actually some stacks to Drone Junkie so he could give some pilots so HG LRC could get insight of is the board good or is it not good, and it is good. Actually, it's so good that the ESC that's rated for 3S works with 2S until a 2S is basically drained. Anyway, if we go here, we can see exactly how the what's the specs for the flight controller, and it's the flight controller is an F7, so F722 is probably going to be the target. Yeah, the MPU is a 6000. Yeah. STM32. This is all pretty basic standard stuff. The input voltage is curious because the input voltage for the flight controller is 2 to 6S. But to scroll down a little bit, the input voltage for the ESC is 3 to 6S, although it still works. Crazy. Still works with the 2S. Let me just yaw it a little bit more. There you go. I think there's something in I don't know, maybe it's my what's it called, calibration of the sensor that's enabling this to fly without me touching it. Maybe that calibration is incorrect. That's why it yaws. I'm not entirely sure because this has always happened to me. Anywho, if we keep going here, yeah, sorry. There's a manual for the flight controller for the ESC as well in HDLSC. But what I wanted to talk about this flight controller specifically is that it has, and it doesn't say here as well, it has a barometer included. Actually, you can see there, I don't know if you can see my mouse, yeah. You can see that in the picture, that little hole with a silver little rectangular thing, that's a barometer, which means that there's a target that helps well. That this board can potentially and is used for iNav. And iNav, if you don't know, it's a fork from CleanFlight, and it's basically just like a navigational navigational firmware. So Betaflight is made just for racing, so it's just the basis of flight, but iNav has like waypoint selection, and it has like a GPS usage. You can send it, you can mark positions on a map, and the drone or the flight or the flying wing will go to that position. Or in this case, using the sensor that I'm using, that I'll talk in a bit, it can actually stay in the place and not move. Just a little bit more yaw. Well, not move-ish. He yaws a little bit. But I guess even in yaw, it kind of stays in the same place. And yeah, like it's iNav is pretty good. There's a few issues that I have with it, but all in all, is it's easier for people to use than, let's say, something like Autopilot, for example. So I would say that iNav is the Betaflight of Autopilot. I'm sorry if I offended someone, but that's just my opinion. Because it's very simple to use. And if you go to Autopilot, there's like thousands of different commands, and you're like, what does any of this do? So for the actually powering of the drone, I'm using these motors. Again, Drone Junkie were the ones that supplied this to me. I think you'll have it in his shop soon. And this was sent by Flywoo just to, give to pilots for them to try how the motors work. And I mean, this is running for 10 minutes already. Like, and I've tested this before, obviously. The motors are like cool. Like, even running a 4S, which I'm not sure if these motors are supposed to run 4S, not 4S, sorry. Even running a 3S with 4-inch props is what I meant. But yeah, they're handling pretty good. See a little bit more. So these are the specs for the motor. Flywoo and NIN 1404, and I'm using the 3750 kV version just because I wanted to use bigger props, and even though the recommendation for this kV is 3-inch, so I'm over propping the motors as it is. But because I'm using a lower battery size, I think that'll be okay. I mean, the motors don't seem to complain very much, but beware with overpropping and even the kind of props that you're using in your build, because if you overprop too much, and you put too much battery, it'll just cause the motor to fail and burn out, probably. Okay, so this is the basic specs that I'm using. 3750. It seems to work pretty well. Like I said before, I've thickened this out and actually put it through its paces of just flying, even with a 2S battery, and it was incredibly fast. Like you wouldn't have any issues. Even probably freestyling with a Lion battery, as long as you're not trying to, carry too much weight on top, because that's the balance, right? The performance of these batteries, props, motors, flight controller, with the specific batteries are pretty much based on how much weight you're trying to carry. So if you're trying to carry a lot of weight, then the batteries might not be able to give you the power that you're going to need when you need it. Because these, at the end of the day, the batteries that I'm using, and speaking of speaking of which, still there. Speaking of which, these are the ones that I'm using. So it's Sony VT6, which are 18650, and these are 20 amps with 3000 milliamps to spare. Now I know that there's 35, not the Sony, but the Samsung do the Q35 or 35Q or 35T. I'm not really sure. Actually, we can search, can it? Samsung 35E. Is it E? Yeah. So these are other ones that are also I can recommend. But you can see here the amperage is much lower. So that means that if you need like full throttle when you need it, you're not gonna have as much, which means that probably the battery would just collapse and make your drone crash from the sky if you like punch out. But the ones that I'm using, these ones, 20 amps, like this is more than enough for you to fly without the worry in your head. We're getting now to 13 minutes, 13-minute flight time. We can check on the battery, by the way.
6 meters.
Oh, it just said it, so we'll have to wait a little bit, and it will just tell us what the battery voltage is again. I can tell you already, it's 10 volts dot 7. So by my calculations, these batteries.
Battery voltage is 10.7 volts.
Yeah.
Altitude 0.6 meters.
Okay, we don't need to know. So, from my calculations, these batteries are able to go down to like 2.6 volts would be the absolute maximum I take them out, and by then they're already going to be very unhappy. But probably like 2.8 safely ish, under load obviously. But you can take them a bit lower, but you risk getting issues with the battery. So if we say let's say 2.5 just for the sake of mathematics, or well, actually I can just put a calc, can I? So 2. Let's say 2.7 times 3, there will be 8.5 volts. That means that we have still 2 volts to play with. And if you remember, we started at 11.7, and it's been 14 minutes now, and now we've wasted like a full volt. So if we were to waste 2 more volts, that means that this would fly for 45 minutes. Now, because it's not a linear it's not a linear way that this battery gets spent. Um, so it's yeah, you have to address that. So it's probably going to be less than 45 minutes. Sorry, but I still don't know how long it will be. I actually never tried this configuration on this drone. So you're watching. I don't know what's going to happen. Actually, if you would like, put down your comments down below on how long do you think this drone is gonna fly for. If you reach like 15 minutes of the video to this point in time, I think people are just gonna scroll by, but I don't know. So if you reach this point in time in the video, put down in the comments how much do you think that this drone will keep on flying. Now, okay. Anyways, I think 3S is a really good configuration for this drone. Obviously, you can get a lot more flight time if you go with bigger props, more effective motors, but then that means that you're gonna have a drone that's much bigger, and potentially you're gonna have more cells that you're gonna have to carry. So you can increase flight times little by little up to a maximum that you won't be able to take advantage of it anymore. But little by little, you should be able to increase flight times that up to a point where weight is just too much to carry whatever you're trying to lift, and at that point, it's probably better to just get a helicopter, you know. But if you're being conservative and you want the smallest possible thing that you can fly for the longest, I think 4-inch and 3S batteries are probably the ideal thing. Like I probably wouldn't go to 4S for this because then the weight just becomes way too much for it to carry. And I would probably need for 4S, I would use probably 6-inch props already to take more advantage of flight time that the drone can give me. Okay, so I spoke before about this having iNav, right? And iNav is a really cool software, you could say, that allows for what's happening right now, which is I eventually you see my hand going onto this side of the table and moving yaw a little bit, just because I have a little bit of yaw drift. But aside from that, there's nothing. There's no wires. There's no wires on it, just so we're clear. Uh, and the drone is pretty much flying itself. And that is because of the sensor that's just under it, which is this one. It's an optical flow and lidar sensor, which is basically a camera and a little laser. That's all it is. And this camera is constantly taking pictures and analyzing each picture that it takes to detect drift away from whatever the first picture that it took. That's why it's always trying to stay on the same location. And that's also the reason there's pillows on my floor. Well, there's obviously I don't want it to crash and hurt the floor, but the pillows, you can see that there's several colors, is for the picture to understand better, because there's not a lot of quality on the picture, for the picture to understand better exactly where it is. Because if I removed and I just had a white floor, it wouldn't know where it was, because everything would be white. It couldn't translate that into data that it then sends to the flight controller for the flight controller to say, okay, a little bit left, a little bit right, a little bit forward, a little bit back. And then the laser is what makes it stay at an altitude that is right now. So you can see here, if I go to my remote and I move the throttle up like full throttle, it goes up, but it doesn't go higher than that, right? And if I move it back to mid throttle, it goes down a little bit, but it doesn't go lower than that. That's because the again this laser thing is just measuring the distance that it has from the floor. Oh, move it here to the middle. It lost the pillows there for a second and started moving away. So the laser is measuring the distance that it has from the floor and just making sure that the distance is always the same, and then managing it sends that information to the flight control, which manages like the height, which is what's happening now. That's why it's almost rock solid. Obviously, you know, with turbulence of the props and all that jazz, it's not gonna be like like a rock in the sky, but it's pretty good. We just need, so the maximum that this will go is 1 meter. So I think in the future we'll just need better laser. So this, but better, you know, and then you'd be able to make the height a little bit higher, hopefully. But just having all of this stuff, so the flight controller, the motors, the batteries, and the sensor, would be nothing if you don't have the flight controller that manages all of that. Sorry, if you don't have the firmware in the flight controller that manages all of that. And that's where iNav comes in. So iNav is, like I said before, it's a fork of FinFlight, and you can just Google iNav and you find it if you've never seen it before. And it allows for tons of features that you can add, even follow me mode and other features. Although some are not are like semi implemented. It was made for wings in the when it started, I think, but then it evolved into quads, and nowadays like you can get a quad, as you can see, flying pretty good with just basic configuration because of filters and all that stuff that we grown used to using in beta flight basically. Um, the configuration, all that is a little bit similar to Betaflight, and I can show you here. This is the iNav configurator, and you can see you have the same. If you used Betaflight before, you have the same type of configurations here on the side. So let me just go a little bit and move it back a bit to the middle of the payload. Cool. Yeah, so you have the setup that tells you that the quad. This is not that quad. This is another quad that's just here on my table for purposes of showing how iNav looks. And yeah, when you run setup, you have like all the arming checks. Also, the calibration is a lot more precise than what you have in Betaflight. So you have to put like the quad up, down, left, right for it to actually understand what the accelerometer is. And here you see on the right, you have the calibration for the optical flow as well. So the optical flow is that little piece here that shows you how to not shows you that allows you to basically stay in the same location. Yeah, you're to the right. And I think that I'm not sure. Maybe it was my calibration that wasn't 100% correct, but it keeps yawing a little bit to the left every now and again. I don't know. If some iNav devs are watching this, or any iNav person that knows a lot about iNav and knows the reason, let me know in the comments. Anyways, where are we at? Yeah, so you can see a lot of the stuff is very similar to what we have in Betaflight. Output, more output, has even presets for stuff, so you don't have to figure out how to tune your quads. Ports, a lot of ports. This is also cool because iNav now allows for DJI FPV to be connected, but it doesn't connect like it does in Betaflight. So in Betaflight, you would turn the MSP for the port, but here you actually have to go to the peripherals and activate the DJI FPV VTX on the right hand side, and then you'll be able to see the OSD for iNav, which has like longitude, latitude, home location, and all that stuff. It doesn't have like everything that you can have in the OSD, but it has quite a lot. We're just reaching the 25-minute mark. I wanna put the volume of my phone up just so we can hear the voltage in a second.
Battery voltage is 9.3 volts.
Okay, so battery voltage, and it just went to 9.2 volts at 25 minutes. So let's do some calculations. So for 25 minutes, before it was 10.6 if I'm not mistaken, at 15. So we lost quite a little bit more now that the battery is sagging down. But still, 9.2 volts is pretty acceptable. We still we have, I think, at least 10 more minutes of flight time. I think it's doable. Maybe we'll see. I'm gonna take it until it just falls off the sky, just to see what's the absolute maximum that this drone will fly without exploding. Fingers crossed. Anyways, back to iNav. So yeah, configuration is very similar as well, and you have here those parameters for this type of sensor that I'm using. Rangefinder is the laser, and optical flow is just the picture taking. Battery voltages, all the stuff looks exactly the same. Failsafe is the same. Pit tuning is the same-ish as Betaflight. It's a bit weird in some places. More tuning. This is actually for like navigational tuning, so it allows you to set parameters when you're flying under navigational modes, like return to home, or even just like following waypoints, or even just stabilize flight, which is really cool. And then some programming that I don't really understand. You can check the receiver and stuff. Modes is the same as Betaflight, and you have you can have your navigational mode here only when the stuff that you need for the navigational modes is present. So for example, if I didn't have the barometer here, you wouldn't even see this range or navigational alt hold. Yeah, it would just not be here. And because I don't have a GPS connected now, you don't see any of the GPS modes as well. So these modes only show up when you have a barometer connected. And unfortunately, most boards that allow iNav, or to have an iNav target, require a barometer, or have a barometer in it. There's very few that don't have it, and the few that don't have it, I think, are for wings only, and wouldn't even work on a quad. Because the wing doesn't require a barometer. I don't know. I don't think so. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. Anyways, still the same thing. GPS. You see how your GPS is doing, and you even have a standalone mission control, which you can access actually when you're outside of the software. Then OSD, let's see, the rest is all the same. So when you disconnect, you can actually, oh no, sorry, you have to use a standalone application. So you have to go to the website and download the somewhere here. I'm not sure. But there's a map application where you can just tell it to, okay, I want to go here, here, and here, and that uploads the information to the flight controller, and then you can go and start a mission if you have a GPS on it. Right, that's pretty much everything that craft has, for the exception of one thing that I actually don't have a picture of. It's moving a little bit. Move it more to the middle. There you go. So there's one more thing that I have on this specific craft, and that is how I can see all the telemetry by using my phone. Oh, and I can see now that the voltage has lowered severely. It's now at 7.0 volts, 6.9 volts. So I think the quad is about to go down very, very soon. So I'm just going to transit to the other camera before it goes. And we can see 29 minutes now. So I'm 6.1 volts. I don't know if it's reading. Yeah. And it's down.
Battery voltage is 7.4 volts.
So at 6 point something,
meters.
And we can stop this. Pause. where is, there we go. So at about 30-ish minutes,
battery voltage is 7.9 volts.
and you can see the battery is coming back up now.
Meters.
Yeah. There we go. So interesting results, because from what I had before, and
Warning,
I tested.
No data received.
Yeah.
Disconnected.
From the data that I had before, and I checked with these 21. I always forget the number. It's the big big 1609, 18650, but they're not 18650. It's 21 something. I'll put the link in the description. With these ones, I got 25 minutes. With the 180650 2S as well, I had 24 minutes. And with a 3S battery, which is this, and it's warm-ish. It's not burning my hands or anything. It's just warm-ish. It's not even hot. I can just hold it in my hands. Actually, I can change to this view. Which one is it? This one? Yes. So with this battery, yeah, I can feel it's warm-ish, but it's not no big deal. And I had 30 minutes ish around, which is quite interesting. So with 3S, I had 5 more minutes of flight time using the and the motors completely cool. Everything in this frame is cool. So it was literally the battery that just at the end couldn't do anymore. And if I check the battery voltage now, I will find that it's, yeah, like I said before, 2.8 volts per cell. So that is actually now it's not under load, but under load it was a lot low, a lot lower, I guess, because it's 6 volts. Oh wow, that's very low. Let me see, 6 divided by 3, it's at 2 volts per cell, but it came up quite nicely at 2.8. That's a 2.8 is probably when you should call it quits and actually land. And I saw like a huge drop from when it was like 8 volts, then it just started like dropping crazily, and it took maybe 1 minute, maybe a minute and a half to drop from 8 volts into a state that the battery could no longer supply enough power to keep the ESC going. So that will take 30 minutes minus a minute and a half if you want to be safe about it. But yeah, with something like this, I guess could you optimize this to be even longer? I'm not sure if you can get a 4-inch that flies for much longer. I mean, you can put a 4S on it, but then you're over the 400 grams weight. I would reduce the kV of the motors as well if you're using 4S. Although I'm pretty sure that these motors will probably take it. 4S could probably get something like 35 minutes, maybe 34, 33 minutes, I'm guessing, is more of the acceptable thing if the motors actually don't give out, which I think actually not, after that flight, a 30-minute flight, like it's like they're not even slightly warm. It's like I just picked them up from the floor from yesterday or whatever. Like not even warm. It's crazy. So maybe, yeah, maybe you can put 4S on something like this and it'll be fine. Maybe that's another video that I'll test in the future. Who knows? I do have a 4S battery, 18650. I always forget. Which, by the way, 18650 is the size. So 18 by 6 by 50. No. 18 by 65. No. Is it? It's the size of the battery. I can't remember now how it is. 18 by 65. 50. What's the zero? Who knows? 30-minute flight time. pretty happy with that. I mean, if you fly for 30 minutes with a 4-inch quad, you're gonna be bored as hell. But if you have like navigational modes with like a GPS that takes you to places and you're just like cruising and watching around, watching the sights, that would be a pretty pretty interesting thing to do. And like I said before, there's no like power issues that one of these things would have with this type of battery. Even with the 3S, it wouldn't have any issues. I do want to try a 4S in the future, maybe to see one if the motors can hold it. I'm pretty sure the SE will be fine because it takes up to 6S. Um, would the motors hold 6S? No. Well, it might hold it, but I have to put like a throttle cap on it for sure. Yeah, so that is it for this video. I do hope that you've enjoyed watching my crazy tests. There'll be more in the future, hopefully. Also, check out my channel for more insane videos about me creating weird stuff that were never meant to be. And I will see you on the next a video. So, thanks for watching. Remember to subscribe. Have you subscribed? Bye. Bye bye. See you next time. Bye.